What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Flip That Truck, episode 6, I believe, and truck 10 has arrived. This is the truck that I traded the ugly green LC70 for, and now we have an ugly little Toyota to replace it. The other ugly little Toyota. This one is set up to be a Class 1 though. It's got a patinaed, weather dented hard body, which isn't normally something that I'm super big fan of, but I think that this one, it fits for the style that this truck is. But underneath and on the outside as well, it's a nice setup truck. It is a Class 1 designed vehicle. And if you're not familiar with Class 1, it's a SORCA rule set, which determines a number of things like tire size and bumper widths, coverages, clearances, things like that. But this truck was built to match that rule set. When this truck arrived, it did have Class 1 suitable wheels and tires on it, but those have been removed. We are going to have to replace those, but that will come at a later time. Before we get into the details of this truck and what we plan to do to it, let's do a small update on the $50 tuber, as I've been calling it. And I guess tuber is what we used to call tube chassis trucks, like in the early RC crawling days. It's a funny name, and for some reason I still refer to them that as times, and I understand that a lot of people probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But last time you saw this, we had 3D scanned the hood. You saw an image on the screen of the buck that was going to be printed, and we did get that 3D printed, and you'll see that I do have a hood on here. It's a little bit hard to see in this lighting, but I'll show you a better image of that on the screen. What we did is we 3D printed that model that you saw the CAD image of. When I 3D print these, this was printed at not an ultra fine layer height, just 0.2, something super quick that I could throw on the Prusa and get going. And I gave it a light sand when it was done, but most importantly, when I put it into the slicer, I do a 3% infill and I do it as a rectangular pattern. Also, I do it with 0 bottom shells. That leaves the bottom side of it completely open. And as you can see here, well, it's white, but that's because after I get it 3D printed, I backfill the entire piece with plaster of Paris. Now, the plaster of Paris allows this to keep its shape, because when you're using 0.060 styrene like I've got here, it has a lot of heat energy in it. And since I'm only printing this out of PLA because it's cheap, it's easy, and it prints super clean, the downside is that it doesn't have a lot of heat resistance. Even PETG doesn't do great. So instead of using something that's more difficult to print or having to print the actual part solid, all I do is backfill it with that plaster. It's super easy. It takes no time. It's very cheap. It just makes the whole process so much faster. And the mold stays in fantastic condition after using it. This is a different mold that I recently printed, and you can see here the open back style, or open bottom style, more technical, of the actual mold. After that, I just put it into my vacuum former, get the material heated up till it gets a little over an inch of sag over the roughly 11 by 17 area, and hit the vacuum and lower the sheet down, and it just sucks down over the buck, and then you just trim it out. And that's how I get my custom hood. Having the 3D scanner really helps to accelerate this process. It's a tool that I'm really happy to have, and I'm going to continue to learn how to use better and better as we go to keep making my custom trucks a little bit more special in a way that's not as easy to accomplish unless you've tried to acquire as many of these silly tools as possible. Beyond that, I also added an air cleaner type look to the center here. It's got a red filter element on the inside, and then it's got like a Moroso style air filter cap that goes on it. It's actually 3 pieces in total, and it screws in through the bottom of the hood itself with a single screw. Now, right now this is all white, and you can see a little bit of the detail of the hood there when I get it into a shadow. But my plan is to add a kind of an old school livery to this truck itself, including these aluminum side panels that I've started to create. I've got those done on both sides now with the hood. Still have the roof to do, and then we've got the detail parts that we're gonna add, like a rear fuel cell, but I need to get the rear sway bar mounted before we can 100% count on how we're going to design that. But as we dive into these projects that are a little bit more elaborate, it's gonna take longer and longer to get them finished. Now I do have some different wheels and tires on here right now. These are just ones that I had from putting together on the live stream. These are the new Vanquish VXT2 tires. These are a very comp-like tire, super sticky, very soft sidewalls. Overall, this got stock foam in it right now, but it's got Method 310s with a clear Skarn ring and a red IFR Delta ring on the inside. And that's there because I plan to kind of tie that into the theme. Tires and wheels likely won't go with this truck just because of the value of them and whether or not someone actually wants to keep that whole style going. Then, you know, they could replicate that just the same, but gives you a little bit of an idea at the very least. Progress on this truck hasn't been massive as far as number of items, but each thing has taken a bit of effort. So that is where this truck sits currently. Not much else to get into. Now, truck 5, which is the red Jeep Rock Bouncer looking, that is currently, right now as I'm filming this, sitting in some paint stripper, hopefully trying to get that powder coat to come off, hoping that it does a good enough job, and then maybe I can just media blast the rest of it off. We'll see. I've had a bit of a mental block with that truck, it's a little bit of a fight with a number of the items that are on it, and I just have to get past that myself. Hopefully once I get it stripped and I can start doing a little bit of metal work, I can get past that hill and everything will continue to get better. Let's hope. But one more thing to add before we start talking about truck 10 here, and that is this bonus truck 11. This was an unknown arrival. This came from the first moderator I ever had on this channel in particular, and he just sent this randomly in the mail, which makes it even more of like a, what do I do with it to make it special for this series? It's not a deadbolt, but a deadbolt. It looks like a deadbolt, but I believe that it started as something else and kind of ended up looking this way. It does have AR44 axles underneath of it, which is a super bonus, but it has the 2-piece or 3-piece axle housings technically. So it's got the separate C-hubs, which is one giveaway as to why it didn't start as a deadbolt. It does have the 1-piece battery tray and servo mount. So that was something that came on the Honcho, I believe. The original kit version had a multi-piece setup that went in there, and I think maybe the red Cherokee did too, but I don't remember. But it's got the gray 3-gear transmission, which is nice. That's the one that I would want rather than the kit style. And it's got a hobby wing system in it. This is a 2300 kV axe system. So what is sitting here is a super, just an awesome base. It's tactic servo with, but it does have incision links on it and stock servo horn. Just the basics of it are solid. Like, we have a really good base to make something special here. I just don't know what yet. So I'm gonna keep this kicking around, and I'm gonna come up with my plan for it before we make any big decisions. To be continued on truck number 11. Getting into truck 10. As you can see, it is a hard body, probably the RC 4-wheel drive one. I'm personally not normally a fan of exo cages, but anytime that I do see one, I do like when they dive into the fender areas like this. Much prefer that compared to the outside the fender overly done. I don't like exo cages in the full-size world. Don't like them in the RC world, but this is about as good of an option for one as I've seen. So I like how that sits here. It's got a matte finished paint job that's got, you know, weathering and denting like we talked about, you know, some exaggerated scratching or rubbing, you know, scars on the hood there. It's been bobbed in the rear and it's got kind of a rusted look, like whoever bobbed it in the full-size world didn't finish it. Metal rear bumper, metal front bumper, small little fairlead in there. It's got a grill guard, and it's got rock sliders that run all the way back. Now, you'll see that this B hoop goes down to the rock slider, but it doesn't. It does, but it doesn't. The body is held on by just pulling over the set screw stiles in the sliders, which is very common. So if you kind of stretch it out and lift up on both sides, you can see that that B-pillar separates. It actually just sits down to where those sliders are. Pretty simple, looks pretty good. I'm not sure if they were always like that because the ends of the tube kind of have some like, you know, remnants on the ends of it. I'm not sure. I don't know if it was retrofitted or what. Now, there is a driver figure in there, but when he arrived, he was loose, and he's still loose. Looked like there was a bunch of epoxy or glue holding him in, but that did not last. So that's something that maybe I'll keep in there or maybe I'll remove. Not a big fan of drivers. Obviously, we've discussed this in the past. But underneath here, you will see what I believe is a G-Speed C1. It's an aluminum chassis. It's got aluminum rear shock towers and carbon fiber front shock towers with additional mounts for the Team Garage Hack front motor mount. That front motor mount has the motor facing forward and running your spur gear here up between the front shock towers. That then drives an intermediate shaft that goes from that front motor mount to a transfer case. This is also a TGH transfer case. Got a short little section of an axial wild bore drive shaft here. And then we've got the TGH transfer case, which has overdrive built in. And that is using incision drive shafts to drive the front and rear element axles. Now, in shipping, this was damaged slightly, and you can see that it's not located there. The panhard mount on the axle broke, so we're gonna have to replace that outer C-hub. Not a big deal. I'll probably grab some upgraded ones, like some aluminum options, and just upgrade it while we're here. But the servo link, or the drag link, also came loose, so I assume a screw just came off in shipping. Not a big deal there. That's an easy one. Not broken, though, at least, which is nice. We do have a Three Brothers G11 servo. We have a Fusion 1200 kV all-in-one system. So that's very nice. Our first brushless system here on this series this time. So pretty decent deal there. Slider bases are 3D printed, and we've got the metal sliders that go here on the outside. I think the links that are on here are stainless steel. I haven't taken one off to feel to confirm if they're stainless steel or titanium. The associated shocks have mini T springs on the bottom, and those are the main stats for this little thing. As far as what I plan to do or I feel that needs to get done, obviously we need to replace the broken piece on the front axle. We'll upgrade there while we're at it. Obviously need to get the servo reattached. That's a simple one. There is some wiring here that I feel needs to get fixed. It's got spade terminals on it, like crimp style spade terminals. Old car audio installer stuff. So that's got to go. I'm not a fan of that. We'll put a JST plug in there to get that cleaned up. I'll just kind of clean up the rest of the wiring while we're at it. You know, just get it tidied up. The rest of the truck, though, is assembled cleanly. There's not much else that really needs to get done. Beyond that, that's really, I think, all that this truck needs. Just general cleanup. Now, since I have to order some parts for that front axle and I need to put wheels and tires on this, that will be finished by the next episode pretty easily, I think. There's not much that's going to have to go into this to get that accomplished. So this one should be able to go in and out fairly quickly. This truck is going to be pretty simple. This truck, I hope to just kind of keep plugging away on little bit by little bit. Also need some parts for this. Not a huge rush there either, but looks like this one will be the next up for sale. I've got that 2.2 rock buggy that you saw last week. I haven't touched it yet, but going for it. Right now we have 5 trucks in the stable, so I need to get some out the door before I bring more in. I've had some really good offers for vehicles that have come in through the messenger. Really appreciate all of you guys for sending those. Definitely keep doing that if you have interesting trucks. Like I said, I'm trying to get some out right now before I bring more in, because 5 is the absolute maximum I feel like I can handle at a time. It's too much, honestly. So hope you guys continue to follow Flip That Truck. I enjoy this. Quick projects, in and out, get to see some stuff, play with new trucks, and then they leave. I feel like that's the best thing for me. But if you do, hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already, hit the notification bell so you see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. And as always, thanks for watching.